Hello friends, Strimtom here, and today we're going to be talking about something very special and specific to my and special to my heart. It's Artificer. So Artificer is going to be experiencing some changes. I have the Artificer changes right below me here. I have the current existing Artificer just over there, and the basic gist is that the Battle Engineer is going to be changing quite a bit. Now, as you may or may not know, linked in the description here, there will be a link to my guide, how to play a Mega Man X Artificer. It actually uses the Battle Engineer tree incredibly heavily, so what I want to do here is kind of detail the changes and kind of show you what's actually going on and tell you what's on the up and up, because these are very positive changes. I think a lot of you will like them. So to start out, they talk about by saying that there's some changes coming to the base classes, the base class. So start out, we got a lot of Rune Arm stuff. So Rune Arm cooldown is improved by 30%. So previously there used to be in this tree over here, there used to be this thermal conduit thing, which reduced the Rune Arm's cooldown by 30%. Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. Now it's just baseline. Cool. Rune Arm charge decay while moving is reduced by 50%. Cool. So that's one of the ones somewhere up on the top of the tree there. So that's just, so basically the Rune Arm's cooldown improved by 30%, and also the charge decay is half as much. There's no longer a penalty to movement speed. That was one of the top tier abilities. Now it's just baseline. That's awesome. Artificers get Warhammers and Light Hammer proficiencies, so now they can use hammers. Improved critical bludgeoning has been added to the list, the class feat list, so now if you want to play a bludgeoning Artificer, you can. Artificer admixture spells now fire straight down. This is just a quality of life thing, so if you hard target yourself, they'll fire straight down, so you can always heal yourself easily with curative admixture abilities. And then Lightning Sphere now has a functional saving throw. For those of you that don't know, all Artificers are incredibly dangerous, especially enemies and quests, because if they use Lightning Sphere, it always stuns you 100% of the time, and you can't avoid it. Insanely irritating, especially on quests like Necro 4, when you're doing it, especially on Epic version. You do the Epic Fleshmaker, and that is insanity. It is so hard to deal with. So now a couple of notes on Rune Arms as well. So they made a bunch of changes to Rune Arms on top of just how Artificers interact. Number one, Rune Arm shots now scale with 100% spell power, as opposed to 50 or 80% of what they would just happen to be. Rune Arm weapon imbues now scale with 200% melee and range power, which means that if you happen to have, even if it's just 2 levels of Rogue, or sorry, 2 levels of Artificer to pick up Rune Arms, as when you're playing as a Great Crossbow Rogue, now melee or range power, whichever one is higher, will apply to the damage that your Rune Arm imbues will do, which is fantastic. Homing on Rune Arms now works about the same angle as a crossbow. So it just basically means shit is going to hit better when you're playing with a Rune Arm. So long story short, homing should now be much more viable. There's a lot of issues with regular Rune Arms. So like any of the shot ones, the force shot, the light spirals, they just don't do anything because they miss. This is pretty much fixed now. Cannonball shot, which is the one from Shenanigans hand cannon, is just straight up better. And all the bugs were basically fixed with it. So that's pretty cool. So now, actual changes to the enhancement tree. I've got the enhancement tree on the left here and the enhancement tree on the right. You can see they are similar, but they're a little bit different. A couple of big things. Pretty much everything that is on this tree over here, that was the, all the thermal conduit stuff, all the stuff for Rune Arms, has pretty much been removed from the tree over here. That's completely missing. So pretty much everything was just added into the red baseline class, except for a couple things. So we're going to go and I'm going to detail out what the changes are specifically and how they make it better. So specifically for all the cores, these ones down here, all the cores, Stable Charge Tier 2 has been added to Core 2, so once you hit level 3, you can get Stable Charge, so you can have, at level 3, all of a sudden, boom, your Stable Charge is Tier 2. That's amazing. Core 4 gets Stable Charge 3. So what that means is that once you get this core here, you can have up to Tier 3 just Stable Charge all the time. This is really useful, because before you used to have to get top tier, so you have to go all the way up here, or up here's where it is right there, the Stable Charge 3. So before it used to cost 20 points to get Charge Tier 2, and have to get Tier 3 to unlock Charge Tier 3. Now you don't have to do that. So if you're playing as an Arcano tech, this means that Rune Arms are now insanely powerful all of a sudden, because you can get Charge Tier 3 passively, and all the benefits to your spell power and your evocation DCs from Arcano tech can add in here. On top of that, it just has the same effect. The last core infused armor, or the second last core, which is here, which gives you just +1, as well as you get an extra +15, +5 physical resistance rating for and -10 arcane spell failure for your infusions. Now it also grants an extra 15 physical and magical resistance rating. So it is 20 physical resistance rating and 15 magical. This is really, really good. Magical resistance rating is very hard to get as an Artificer, so this is very, very useful. And then finally, the top tier, Master Engineer, the top core, used to give you +2 intelligence and another +1 to your main hand thing, as well as causing your main hand weapon to be a spellcasting implement. cool, but not really great. Now, it does an extra +2 int, so it's a total of 4, and it does +1 competence bonus to critical multiplier with crossbows, bastard swords, dwarven axes, light hammers, warhammers, morning stars, in addition to everything else. So it gives you +1 critical multiplier. So if you're playing my build, which is a bastard sword based build, +1 critical multiplier. That is fantastic. That's amazing. So now we're going to look at some of the stuff on the tier 1. So as you can see, the trees are similar. So you've still got field engineer, it's the same thing. You've still got weapon training, it's the same thing. But now weapon training, as opposed to just having crossbow training, so damage with crossbows and hand-and-a-half weapons, there's a third line for light hammers, warhammers, and morning stars. Which means that if you want to go ahead and play a warhammer type character, you can actually use a warhammer character. This opens up the options as well for potentially multi-classing with Onatar. So playing a cleric or a favored soul and being a follower of Onatar because his favorite weapon is in fact warhammer. Kind of cool opportunities there. So on top of that, there's a new thing called Field Scrapper, which improves the sunder of your sunder DCs. You might not think that that's great, but it's actually kind of cool. We'll get into that later, but it improves your sunder DCs, so it's kind of whatever. You may not sunder that much. And as well, Thaumaturgical Conduit from Tier 2, where you build charge faster, has now been made a Tier 1 ability as opposed to a Tier 2. Thermal Venting, which is a 30% faster cooldown, that's just been made baseline, so you don't need to worry about that. On Tier 2, which used to have, so it's still got the weapon training, it still has Rack Construct, but now there's a new ability called Caustic Strike, this ability right here. Caustic Strike deals a bunch of extra damage, so it's just base plus W, but it also adds 3 d6 acid damage and 10 d6 rust damage. So this is one of the few effects of the game that actually has rust damage, and the damage scales with spell power. So Rack Construct's interesting because it basically does a little bit extra damage and disables some constructs or whatever and reduces their fortification. Caustic Strike does 10 d6 damage that scales with spell power. So the more reconstruction spell power you have, the more damage you're going to do to any type of construct. Insanely useful against all types of constructs. This is a super powerful ability. Now some of you might say, how come it's only plus 1.5 with a crossbow? The reason for that is because if you fire this inherently with a repeating crossbow, you're going to get 3 shots off. So this plus 3W with your main hand weapon, this is actually plus 4.5 technically because it's plus 1.5 on each individual shot. So total for 4.5. As well, you're actually going to be doing 30 d6s of rust damage at level 2 to constructs. So if you happen to have a repeating crossbow and you take the ranged version of Caustic Strike, that's complete madness. Crazy damage. Extra action boost was also moved down a tier. And attacker damage boost that used to be here, this tier 2, was actually moved down, or sorry, attack boost on tier 1, which is this ability here, was moved up to tier 2 and is now attack or damage boost. That's kind of neato. Tier 3 didn't really change anything at all. So all they did is they got rid of arcane capacitors, so there's no arcane capacitors, there's no extra action boost on this tier, and disable construct is still the same thing, and weapon training. So you can see tier 3 is a bit empty. There's really nothing here, but that's okay. You're going to be putting points into Field Scrapper probably, into Caustic Strike, into a lot of the abilities down here, so you won't have to worry about getting up to the 20 points. I guarantee you're going to hit those 20 points. I mean, realistically, just looking at it, you've got 6 points you're going to put in right here, an extra 2 here. From your cores, that's an extra 3, so you're already at 11, and you haven't put any points in anything in this area here. So you're definitely going to be easily able to hit 20. So when you get up to Tier 4, what do you get? Well, Tier 4 had some really rad stuff. You had weapon training, you had Battle Mastery for Endless Fusillade and Haste Boost, Rune Arm Overcharge, which we know has been removed, and Rune Arm Capacitors, which we know has been removed. So what did they replace it with, Strimtom? Well, number 1, it's more weapon training, specifically for Light Hammers, Warhammers, and Morning Stars. Battle Mastery. So this is for Fusillade, Endless Fusillade. Now it lasts 18 seconds. It used to be 6. So basically this ability used to make it so your crossbow would reload instantly, so you could just and just shoot constantly. Now it lasts for triple the time. So that's a pretty cool buff. So that's going to be really nice. A lot of people will like that, especially if you have a lot of great on-hit effects and stuff. You do a lot of damage. And now there's a new ability called Shatter Defenses. So Shatter Defenses is an attack that procs Improved Sunder, even if you don't have the feats Improved Sunder, with a DC of 14 plus Intelligence instead of Strength and Sundering bonuses. So it has a 10-second cooldown, and it shares a cooldown with Improved Sunder. So it's basically just a cool Sundering ability. So the cores... the stuff in the core that gives you Sundering bonuses stacks into this. So Sundering isn't the greatest thing, but it does reduce fortification, it does reduce arm class, so it is nice to have. As well, there's now a new ability, which is Agility Engine, plus 10% double strike and double shot while wearing a Rune Arm. You're going to want this 100% of the time, and you're going to want Shatter Defenses 100% of the time. You're also going to want Battle Mastery 100% of the time, and Weapon Training 100% of the time. You're going to be spending a lot of points in this tree now, but that's not a bad thing. It's really, really good. And then finally, we're going to move up to the top. And the top tier used to be Weapon Attachment, Rune Arm Overcharge, and Tactical Mobility. So Tactical Mobility is baseline, Rune Arm Overcharge is in the core, and Weapon Attachment's still there. So they had to replace it with something, because if you look at this top row here, there's not a lot in this top row. It's kind of empty. So now, it's actually completely full, and we're going to go into detail of what those full things are. So number one, the top tier of, instead of Weapon Attachment, at the top here, which is what it used to be weapon attachment. Weapon attachment has been moved over a space, so it's still there, but now you have reconstructed armaments, which is +1 competence bonus to critical threat range. So now, this tree actually gets critical threat range and multiplier. Critical threat range top tier here, and at level 20 you get the multiplier. This basically makes it so that you have a really, really comparable ability to use very high damage weapons, both your repeating crossbows, but most importantly, as much as I like to say Bastard Sword is the kind of weapon I like to use with this build, you're going to get a lot more effectiveness if you actually go ahead and take Dwarven Axe. Dwarven Axe is going to give you a lot of mileage with this build. If you don't take the feat for Dwarven Axe, Warhammer will also give you a lot of mileage with this build, and then Bastard Sword lags behind just a little bit of both of those too. So if you're looking for DPS, specifically with melee, you're going to be looking at Dwarven Axe, then Warhammer, then Bastard Sword. And if you look at overall DPS, my sense is it's going to be Dwarven Axe, Warhammer, having repeating crossbow, and then Bastard Sword for damage. And if you want to use a Morningstar, go for it, man. Morningstars are cool. Then there's also a new ability, Thundershock Weapon. Thundershock Weapon is an attack, but it does 3d6 extra electric damage, which scales with spell power, so it just does extra damage. That's kind of cool. But it procs a trip based on your Sunder effect. So this might sound weird. Why would you have a trip based on your Sunder? But the thing is, it allows you to just synergize easier. You're only picking up Sunder bonuses. You don't have to worry about getting trip. You don't have to worry about getting vertigo. You can just pick up Sunder bonuses and have a pretty much guaranteed chance to trip. The most important thing is that trip, while Sunder has a fortitude save, Trip does not have a save. It has an opposed check. Now this is really important because the opposed check is strength or dex. Whereas an monster's saves might be around 80 to 100. If they want to make an opposed strength check, if your DC on this is 75, which is not crazy, that's actually pretty achievable. If your DC on this is 75, that monster needs to be able to hit 75 on a strength check. To hit 75 on a strength check, you would need to have 120 strength to get plus 55, and then roll a 20. Monsters aren't designed with that level of strength or dexterity, so this is pretty much going to work every time. Anything that you need to trip is going to trip from this weapon, this ability. This is fantastic. In fact, if you happen to have a repeating crossbow and you cast this, it's going to shoot 3 times. So if you have improved precise shot, you can point in a line and just go boom, 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 and like as long as you're turning, you're going to be tripping pretty much the whole room. It's very cool. Super powerful ability. It's going to be fantastic. And the fact that it works with Sunder means you're going to be sundering stuff and you're going to be tripping stuff, kind of like really working in the melee component. Then you've got Unlock Potential, which is plus 20 melee and range power while wearing a Rune Arm. So just 20 melee and range power. So this tree just gives you 10% double shot and 20 melee and range power. Amazing. Super good. And Tactical Mobility. You move faster, not slower. You move faster. So this is insane. Super good. The changes look fantastic. I made a 13-minute video, which is just way too long. This video was too long, but I hope I went in depth in everything you wanted to see here. If you liked what I did, let me know in the comments. If you hate what I did, also let me know. I don't really read the comments, but that's not the point. I mean, I kind of do. There's also stuff about blah, 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 and Rune Arm DCs are difficult to attain in epics. Not really. You just need to have evocation bonuses. So these abilities are no harder, or evocation DCs Rune Arm DCs are no harder to achieve than Fireball DC is on a sorcerer. So, and Arcanotechs get a lot of cool stuff. So, yeah, they're also not changing Arcanotechnician. Arcanotechnician's really, really good. Go play it. It's super good, guys. It's super good. So anyway, so that's just it. They're not updating Iron Defenders because Iron Defenders are broken, and they're not making a third tree. I would love to see a repair-focused tree. In the entire game, there's 0 enhancements that affect repairing outside of the Blade Forge tree, which is Reconstruction, and then there's Blade Forge and Warforge both get Repair Amp. But outside of that, there are no other trees in the game that do repair, but there are a lot of trees that do healing. In fact, probably every second tree in the game does healing. So I would love to see something repair focused for Engineer or for the Artificer. That'd be great. But anyway, that's all I've got to say today. There's going to be another video coming out later that's going to detail some of the updates coming with Cleric, and I'm going to go through my opinions. That's going to be a long fucking video, so I hope if you like what I did here, get ready for that one. It's going to be more math intensive. Here I'm just kind of spitballing and talking about stuff. You can pretty much guess from this tree here, just from the critical threat range and multiplier alone, that's going to up damage by almost 100%. And then on top of that, the new abilities, the melee power and the double strike and double shot, as well as the new stats that you get in here and some of the new attacks, and the fact that everything works a lot better with Rune Arms, and you're going to be spending less points in the tree to get more effectiveness out of everything. Like I said, you're looking probably at the very least a 100% increase in damage on everything you do as a battle engineer, and potentially even more depending on how well you play the game and how well you like the Rune Arm. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure to share this with all your Artificer friends so they can see that. Peace.